Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite. Yeah, I don't know why I just started smiling for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I
You've
hope you
got great
guys are
guests.
all. I don't know. I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you everyone for joining in today. As you guys know, we've got a very special guest here. We said someone I've had on the channel before, and I'm looking forward to this chat here today. Van Man Talks. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to speak to you again. It's been a long time. And I'm also excited to talk about something else. I've literally just before coming on with you, I've just recorded a video for my own channel where I review Andrew Gold and Steve Law's interview. Are you familiar with Steve Law's?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not.
Yeah,
Sounds
don't
familiar.
get familiar with this guy. Basically, he's like
Okay.
an ultra ethno nationalist. He's
Right.
the guy that like basically wants Britain completely white. And I've sat through an hour podcast, so my brain is pretty fried with this stuff at the moment. So it'd be quite nice to chat to you about something else.
Oh,
It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. It's really bonkers.
it's actually really like. Well, I mean, it's quite frightening. That people have that mindset, and I think one of the things is that they don't like the mindset that I feel like when I try and think about why they think and feel in such a way. That kind of mindset is like they don't care about the consequences of what is going to happen if they do something like that. And it's almost like that that their belief and this ideology supersedes anything else at all. Like it's if it means like the whole of the UK burning to the ground, or if it means England burns to the ground and gets rebuilt again, it's worth the sacrifice to them just for the sole purpose of this ideology that they believe in.
Well, yeah, exactly that. I mean, it's just completely bonkers, and that's what I talk about in the video. And maybe some of your viewers will go on and watch it when I release it. It's weird, like yeah, he's just a complete ideologue and just doesn't realize what would actually happen to the country if he implemented his politics. So I mean, basically, the guy wants like Trump-style deportations, but to the absolute max. I mean, anyone that is not pure white will be deported, and other than the just pure racism of it, but just the fact that the country would collapse. He doesn't understand that the country would collapse and descend into civil war. Like, you know, you deport the million Indian doctors and Filipino nurses, and the whole country collapses. No one's going to stand by and watch their neighbors, their friends, their family members be deported. I mean, my wife and my son would be deported if he got his way. I'm not going to stand by and let that happen. You know, the country's going to descend
Nigel
into
Farage
civil
could get
war
because of his relationship with his
yeah, exactly.
I guess that's the only silver lining in all of it. But
anyway, you know, feel free and watch my video when it comes out, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah,
but,
guys, yeah.
Fried with that stuff. So I actually said I'm looking forward to talking about something else with you.
Yeah. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about the subject we wanted to really touch on before we go into reform and why people are down that road, and that is obviously the cost of living crisis. Like just start us off. Yeah, how do you feel about the current situation? It's a new year, obviously. We still got this Labour government. Like, what is your sense on the ground and what people are saying? What are you feeling out there? What the vibes are you getting with the current climate at the moment with regards to the cost of living?
It's just all absorbing for so many people. The job that I do, I reach a lot of different demographics, especially in Brighton. I mean, Brighton's quite a wealthy city, really, but it has like another side which doesn't really get talked about, which is quite poor. And I talk to a lot of people in the Brighton area with my deliveries, and it's when you're in the poverty and you're dealing with the cost of living, it's just all absorbing. But not even just when you're in poverty, like myself. I'm self-employed, and if I have a bad week, you know, the washing machine starts making a funny noise or something, and I think, Jesus Christ, is that another couple of £100? It's like I think a lot of the population doesn't understand the pure weight that the cost of living crisis has on so many people in this country. It is, you just don't get a respite from thinking about it. Do your kids need new shoes next week? Is the boiler going to last till next year? You know, it's so soul sapping to have this constantly on your brain, which so many people in this country do. And of course, people are taking different vents in the way to express their anger, and you know, that's why we're seeing rise and reform and things like that, because they're not seeing any other option from this current government. Obviously, a lot of people that are in the know with this Labour government, I get these sort of comments all the time on my channel that they're saying, "Oh, but Labour are doing this in this area and this in that area." But if we're not hearing about it, it doesn't matter, because that's the problem. The majority of people, especially those that are on the poorer side, that are just constantly working, they're trying to feed their families, they're getting through the day, they're trying to get squeeze some sort of social life out of their life. They're not absorbed in politics every day. They're not hearing what the government are doing. And there doesn't, for me, seem to be any sort of clear message from this Labour government of how they're going to turn this around. And that's what we need. We don't mind if it's going to take time. We know these sort of things are going to take time. 15 years of Tory government has completely destroyed this country. But we need to know that we're actually going in the right direction. If there was like a clear message from this Labour government that I don't know, for example, we're going to bring solar panels and heat pumps to every house in this country that is going to save you £200 a month. I'm not saying that's the policy to do, but some sort of clear direction that we can all understand and go, right, okay, we're actually going to try and battle this, and we've actually got an end goal. But people don't see it. I don't see it, and that's why people are so frustrated, I think.
I think like I think there are small little things that they are doing, but as you say, you don't hear enough, hear a lot about them. But it's like it's almost like, I mean, for example, they talked about the energy bills are going to be going down by £150. Is that, if I think, is what the government announced in regards to energy bills or something along those lines? I'm sure someone will correct me in the chat with it. But they did say something about reducing energy bills. They've said they're obviously this year the rail fares are being frozen, which is very good for people who are traveling, but it's not going down, it's staying still. It's only gonna, and it's gonna go back up again. Like, these are small little things, but
well, that is the problem. We hear about little things here and there, like you say, yeah, rail fares. Well, you know, I don't take the train or whatever. You know, it's you know, this. We hear about these little things. I just really think that the population just need some sort of clear policy that Labour are doing, and that you know, like the Tories have always been so good at the small, short slogans that they've been so great at over the years. You know, get Brexit done, blah, blah, blah. They need something that is clear. Like I said, I'm just using it as an example, but just say, you know, solar panels in every house that is going to bring your bills will come down by £200 a month, and just keep hammering that sort of policy home. So we know that there's actually a clear direction that we're going in, and we're actually getting out of this. Until Labour do that, people are going to look elsewhere, aren't they? And they're going to be skeptical of this government.
yeah, I mean, obviously, like when you've brought up heat pumps, like one of the things that I think about is like what are we like? Oh, is this government doing enough when it comes to, like, they talk about wanting to build new homes, but are we doing enough about the current homes? Are we doing it? Are we insulating enough homes? As you said about solar. Like solar panels on roofs, like like this argument that I hear from people saying, "Oh, we don't get as much sunshine as as like Spain or something." I was just like, "That's just nonsense." Like, it's just nonsense. Like, every single house
You need
going forward.
sunlight.
I mean, it's just like I just don't buy it. Like, every single house should have solar panels. I mean, it would just like, it's not going to solve all our energy situation off the bat, but it would just go a long way. I mean, I think there are some like or what's the phrase? There are some like government government programs that kind of help like subsidize some of the income for some of these green energy things, but it's not nowhere near enough. But that's just people that are roughly that are doing okay, that aren't like struggling to get by. And that, but it's the real people who are really down at the bottom, those who are working 30, 40, 50 or 60 hours a week, working 2, 3 jobs, and also claiming entitlements just to keep themselves going.
Mm, mm,
That's those that for me is the biggest question that I just scratch my head off, wondering how have we ended up in this situation. And I literally saw a video from, I can't remember this huge. I was just looking at different videos on the cost of living, and like, we're supposed to be one of the wealthiest nations on the planet, and yet we still have this situation where so many people are going from from middle income to low income, and people on low income are now finding themselves destitute, where they literally are not living but surviving.
mm,
That's the word that I think, that people don't like. I don't even think it's cost of living is probably not the right word. Cost of survival. The cost of
mm.
survival to make it every day. And what kind of a life is that? What kind of a life is that for people when they are literally struggling to survive every single day, hoping that they would, in some way, shape, or form, find themselves that things will get better for them? And it's a struggle for people, and it's
This is why the tinkering around the edges, which is what I see from this Labour government, is it's never going to solve this. Like, we need drastic change. Look, I'm no economist, and economics I do struggle with, and the majority of this country do as well. But if we can afford to pay for COVID, we can afford to do some sort of drastic countrywide council house build, or like we say, with the investment with green energy, get heat pumps and solar panels into every home. I don't know what you're like with economics, but I struggle with this sort of Zach Polanski style economics, just purely because I don't understand it. I mean, I'm just a simple guy at the end of the day. I have passionate political views, but when it comes to economics, obviously you got this argument from the current Labour government that we basically need to keep Tory style economics and balance the books and not do anything too drastic. And then you've got this other opinion from Zach Polanski and the Greens, which is basically, and a lot of economists that are saying
radical.
we can spend lots and lots and lots and lots, and it's fine. And
Well, on Zach Polanski, like, is he like the perfect politician? No. Does he have flaws? Yes. I think yeah, every politician has flaws. No one is perfect. But even if even if we don't agree, even if that, like, say, I'm pretty sure not everyone in the chat and everyone in the chat, everyone agrees with Zach Polanski and what he's doing is absolutely perfect and whatnot. I'm sure he has flaws. I mean, the right does try their very hardest to expose that. He's not perfect, and no politician is, but he doesn't come across as somebody that he does feel very human, which is something you don't get enough of from politicians. And honesty, I think, is something that we don't get enough of from politicians. And I'm seeing that.
That's a great point.
I think that's something that, even though Zach is there are questions around Zach Polanski, but the word honesty comes to mind when I listen to the guy. When I listen to different interviews and whatnot, I do feel a sense of honesty with this person. That's not to say that if he ever gets power or is in power or anything, that he could completely switch off the bat, because people do change when they reach power, and God forbid if that does happen to him. But as of right now,
that is what the public are absolutely striving for, like honesty from politicians. Like, there was a recent poll about Reform voters that prefer Jeremy Corbyn to Keir Starmer, because they may actually disagree with Jeremy Corbyn's politics, but at least he is honest about what he believes. We understand what Jeremy Corbyn believes in, and when he comes in an interview, he's talking about his open and honest opinions. Same with Zach Polanski, and the same with Farage. We don't like his politics, but he's upfront. He doesn't like immigration. He wants low tax. We know what he's about.
Yeah, but is that low tax for people? Is that low tax for the low and middle income, or is that people for the wealthiest in society?
Well, yeah, the wealthy.
But that's obviously another thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we can't stand Nigel Farage, and I detest the man, but we know what he's about. That's what we don't get with Keir Starmer. We've never got with Keir Starmer. Whenever I see him on TV with even when he pops up on his Christmas message, It's the same. It's the same way that I used to feel about all the predecessing Tory leaders. Whenever Boris Johnson would come on TV, Sunak, I'd just be like, "You're not being you. You're just spilling out whatever
You're just
bullshit."
following the script,
And
being
and it's the
robotic.
same. I get the same from Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
But
The
what were we expecting? Did you vote for him?
I did. I've always. I for the last 3 elections, I voted Green. But in my area is a very strong Labour. But the last 2 elections, the Greens have surged in this area. So they are gaining more and more votes as time goes on in this area here in this area. The polls are saying that a lot of people are turning to Greens in London, which is very concerning for Labour. But I'm not sure if they can. I'm not sure how much ground or they could gain at the local elections. But it would be interesting to see there. But
even though you didn't vote for him, what were you actually expecting? Is what we've got what you were expecting? Because for me, it's pretty much what I was expecting from a Keir Starmer Labour government. I thought they'd pretty much be the same as the Tories economically and just be slightly better. You know, they got rid of Rwanda. We've seen some renting regulation and some working regulation. You know, a few good things. Like I expected them to be just slightly better than the Tories. That's what I expected. I didn't expect radical things from a Keir Starmer Labour government.
No, I didn't expect radical things either from them. But
I want them, but I wasn't expecting them.
But what I've seen, what I think has happened is, and you can literally parallel this with what's happened with American politics. You had Trump, and then Trump went, and then they went back to normal politics with Joe Biden and the Democrats to a per se, right? And that's kind of what's happened here. You've had insanity with Boris Johnson, with Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak. I don't think he was. Yeah, I don't think Sunak was as insane as Boris and Liz Truss, but some people may disagree, and that's fine. But it felt like a bit of a like, oh, we're just going to go back to normal sort of thing, and it's just that's kind of what it felt like. But it's like there's nothing big, there's nothing massive changes and whatnot, because one thing that they're scared, the markets and big businesses and all that kind of stuff. They don't like big change. They don't like radical reforms or anything. They want to keep the status quo. They don't mind tinkering, but they want to always maintain a status quo of sorts. They don't want like big changes to the system and whatnot. And it feels like that Labour had lots of fascinating policies and lots of ideas when they had their manifesto, right? And they've implemented some of them. And some of them they've kind of just like sat on the shelves and just kind of left it there and hoping people don't mention them as well. And it just because I feel like that they are trying, but they're also holding themselves back, because of certain influences that they have on them. I mean, even in the run up to before they came into power, like I was fearing for some of the things from this Labour government, because like I constantly kept hearing about the amount of money that companies were pouring into them, the Israeli groups that were pouring more money into them and whatnot. And you could just kind of like see, yep, this is them, all these businesses and all that. They're all shifting their money towards this political pie because they're now going to be in power. So let's all get our teeth into them so that we can influence them in a certain direction.
I think digital ID as well. I don't know what your feelings are on this, but I can't see how that's a Labour policy. I think that has been pushed by big business, or because it just seems like such an obvious own goal. Like if you're trying to you've got the threat of reform and Nigel Farage, why would you suddenly just announce digital ID, which is going to absolutely infuriate these people and hate you even more? It just seems so bizarre. It seemed like something.
It's the timing more than anything that threw me off. Like the timing of it all. Like of all the times you want to talk about introducing a digital ID, you want to do it at a time when trust in politics is already low. You have the main topic that won't go away is immigration. And your idea is if we digital ID everyone, that way, we can stop people like getting into the black market and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, straight away, the first thing comes to my mind is like, well, people will still be in the black market. It'll just be cash in hand. Like you're not going to stop that. Like the only way you stop that is if we get rid of our if we get rid of actual cash, which which would be a terrible thing. I really don't want that to happen. Like that was the main thing they pointed it around, the whole digital ID thing, and it's just just it's just not a good idea. They literally did a U-turn today. They did a U-turn today on the business rates for pubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did
So
that today.
that's another thing that's yeah. I mean, I did just start this conversation by saying I kind of expect this is what I expected from a Keir Starmer Labour government,
Yeah,
but it's not. It has been worse than what I expected. Things like that, uh, yeah, just crucifying pubs that have already, I know they're now doing a U-turn on it, but just to even implement that in the first place,
this is
just seem
you just
bonkers. They're just taxing the wrong people, and
the
they're
point
taxing the wrong.
the point you just made there, right, is a point that they've constantly been making, right? They keep having policies, but one of my criticisms is it's all well and good having policies and ideas, right? But it's so important that you talk to the people that are going to be affected by this and make it clear to them why you're doing this. And I feel like that they've just been doing policies, introducing these policies. I mean, for example, we can talk about the inheritance tax issue. We could talk about the changes that they were going to make to disability entitlements, which is absolutely off the wall. Like how much of farmers were informed about the changes to inheritance tax? How many disability groups out there were informed about the changes that they were bringing towards in terms of entitlements? Did they consult in any of these groups? No, they didn't. They didn't consult any of them. They just went with a policy. They think, oh yeah, well, this can help raise some money whatsoever. And then they don't think about not just the short term, but the long term consequences of these policies. Yeah, I understand that governments have to make policies and decisions that don't always please the public. I accept that. You accept that. Everyone in the chat knows that. No, we all know that whatever political parties are in government, they're always going to be making decisions that not everyone's going to agree with. But sometimes you need to make decisions that is beneficial to everyone. But they need to make sense. And for me, like one of the biggest low points, I think, from this government was the talk about changes to disability entitlements more than anything out of everything they've done. And it just blew my mind of just, do you realize just how bad this looks for you? I honestly just I honestly just thought
It's almost like
it's a Tory thing. It's a reform idea, and this is something came from Labour. And you was like, it's just so un-Labour-like, and it's like when they introduced it and they kept talking about it, and all I could think about was, who are you? Like, you're not Labour. Like, this is not like, I don't even recognise you guys anymore.
Yeah. Well, it was almost like they wanted in the first year to just get out every single horrible policy that they wanted to put forward, because they think, oh, people will like us in a few years' time. Let's get all the ugly stuff out of the way. And but it's yeah. I mean, people talk a lot about the Overton window, don't they? That it's. I mean, that's what I mean. Labour is Tories of like 10 years ago or whatever, because it's just shifted so far, isn't it?
Also, my friends in Scotland like to say two cheeks are the same arse, reds and blues.
yeah, but so like I asked you if you voted for him, and I voted for him. My reasons were first of all, and I think a lot of people in the country felt the same as me. First of all, number one, I just wanted the Tories to be absolutely decimated. I wanted them to be as punished as severely as they possibly could for what they've done to this country over the last 15 years. I wanted them to be, but I almost even wanted, if it was possible, for them to be the third party and be less than the Lib Dems. I just wanted them absolutely crucified. Secondly, although I live in Brighton, I live in East Brighton. I used to live in Central Brighton, so I voted for the Green Party with Caroline Lucas for a good few years, but then I moved to East Brighton. East Brighton's a bit more of a swing constituency. We've got the sort of Peacehaven, which is basically London Tories that come down to retire. That's what Peacehaven is. And East Brighton, Kemp Town is very, very liberal. So it is a little bit of a battleground, Tory Labour. So I wanted to secure that seat. But lack of alternative to me. I just had problems. I mean, obviously, never vote for reform. Lib Dems, looking back, I probably should have voted Lib Dems if I was going with my heart. but I didn't really know what they was about. The Green Party, I have issues on immigration with them, which I'm sure we'll get onto at a later date. But economically, I agree with them a hell of a lot. And really, Labour were kind of closest to what I was about at the time. But yeah, I knew that it would just be Tories light. I didn't realise it was going to be this bad. And you know, there's so many people out there, especially a lot of political commentators, that will say, "I told you so, I told you so, I told you so." And yeah, you're right. But I didn't. But this is who we've got now, isn't it? To
But a
fight
lot
the
of people,
fight.
all those people who say we told you so about Labour, right? Well, here's the thing: like a lot of people will say, yeah, but did we want 4 more years of the Conservatives? No, we wanted something different. Like we just had enough. A lot of people voted Labour not because they wanted Labour, but because they just desperately wanted them gone and wanted something different, as you rightly said. That's what people
What
wanted.
is different though? Let me ask you this: what is different to Keir Starmer's Labour to Rishi Sunak's Tories? Apart from Rwanda, take Rwanda out. What is actually different? Maybe some more movement with green energy. I mean, I'd like to actually know
Our relationship
a
with the
lot more.
European Union is a lot
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
That's the first thing I would say. I do think there are. I do feel like that there are, even though there are only small changes. I do think like the workers' rights bill. I think that's a big thing from them. I think obviously some of the smaller policies that they've been introducing, like the obviously the rail freeze and some schemes to try and reduce energy bills on energy and that. Like there's small little things, but they are positive things. They are positive things, but they are small ones there. I do think, with the exception of Gaza, which I think he does a fucking awful job. I think the way Keir Starmer has handled Trump to a certain extent, I think
just global politics in general, really.
yeah, with the
It's a bit of
exception
a
of the
wet
Middle
lettuce,
East, though.
though.
With the exception of the Middle East, because he keeps sucking up to Israel there. But you know, I think he's actually done pretty well in terms of handling Donald Trump. There, because you know, I felt like that relationship wasn't going to go well for our benefit. But I think he's done okay. I'm not happy that he's not called out Trump and what happened in Venezuela personally. But I also understand why he's done it, because he doesn't want to upset the orange tangerine and make things worse here. Like, I wish he would have more balls and stand up a bit more on that personally. But I do
it's
think
not easy. I'll give it to him. You know, we all do want him to stand up a bit more to America, and especially the influence of Musk in this country and all that sort of stuff. We'd like to see him stand up more. But when you're dealing with basically a wild tame animal like Trump, it's so difficult. It's got to be difficult to know how to deal with someone like that.
so I can't, like, could you like, I mean, like, I'm just thinking, like, could you imagine if it was actually one of the Conservatives? Just think of Boris Johnson or Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak, any of these Conservatives. They would bow to a lot more pressure to Donald Trump if it wasn't for Keir Starmer. Like, I do think, yeah, he bends on a lot of things, like on a lot of things, but I think it would have been a lot worse with the Conservatives. I generally do. I know. I don't like that people's. I'm not at this. Like, regardless of how I feel about this Labour government, I'm not happy with them. I still feel that things would have been worse if we still had the Conservatives. And the thing that really infuriates me the most about the Conservative Party more than anything is that they're still, to this day, it's the same lot in that shadow cabinet, the same bloody lot who were in government, the same lot. They haven't switched over to hardly anyone. All those people were people who were in government. And none of them are sorry for the damage that they have done throughout any of their time. Like, they've never apologized. That's the thing that really, I don't like to use the word, but it does anger me. Like, it angers me so much. Like, for me, I feel the Conservatives would do so much better if they just, like, if they had a bunch of brand new people, they would gain so much more voters, so much more attention, just because it'd be new, fresh faces from the party. But you still got the bloody old guard there, some of them who said so much bollocks and nonsense, and you expect people to believe you. And it's so easy for Labour to simply turn around and say, you're the ones who crashed the economy and did this and did this and did this, and you're the same people. It's not like It's not like a bunch of different conservatives. It's the same lot.
Yeah.
Like Robert Jenrick, Kemi Baganots, I mean the list of
Well,
nonsense.
I mean, that's why they're not relevant now, and that's why the emphasis has shifted to
But the
reform,
problem
isn't
is
it?
that the people are appealing to Kemi Baganot. The last couple of polls are showing that. Kemi Baganot's becoming appealing, which is concerning to me. Like I was expecting her to get the boot, but it seems to be there seems to be a swing back towards the Conservatives, and there seems to be a bit of a dip from Reform in some of the polls, a slight dip, which is
I don't
very
know.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you mentioned earlier the comparisons with America, and I see us going the same way. The reason that Americans got fed up with Biden and then ended up going back to Trump is because of these career politicians. They're sick of it. They've had it for years and years and years. The same old shit, the same old policies. Nothing ever gets better. You know, they had it through Obama. They had it through, and you know, their lives are not getting better, and they're just sick of these standard politicians, which is why they've looked for Trump, and that's why they're looking at Farage and Zach Balansky in this country. I just can't see a situation where the British public now are going to go back to the Tories or go back to Labour. I think that time is done. I think that time of the strong and stable politician and robotic interviews and coming out and like we said earlier, not really actually having a personality, not actually really showing us what you truly believe in. You're not going to get that from Labour and the Tories, and I don't know where the Tories go from.
You've got to now in politics. You can't just be a boring old politician. You have to be charismatic.
We just need honesty. People want honesty. That's what they want.
People require charismatic politicians now. Like, I think the game has changed in politics. People want someone charismatic. I mean, look at some of the leaders in the world. Like how some of the leaders in the world. Like look at the Argentinian president, for example. Like he's he's bonkers, but yeah. But guess what? He has charisma. He's charismatic. Yeah. Like he's one of those. Like
I think I think people, you know, you don't have to be crazy and bonkers and stuff like that. I more than anything, just people want honesty. Like even like Gordon Brown, for example, or something. You know, when you see him, you may not agree with his politics, blah blah blah, but he is what he is. He comes across as honest, and we understand what his politics are about. I think people are just craving leaders, politicians that are just open and honest about what they believe and not constantly just putting out a line. And that's what you get with Polanski and unfortunately Farage.
But we see a lot of we always see politicians move the goalpost or change the goalpost when situations change, and that's happened a lot when Labour have come into government. They kept changing the goalposts on certain things, and that's been quite infuriating. And I also do think they hide behind the whole debt thing and bringing down the debt and all that bollocks. Which, by the way, our debt is not as I always say this. Our debt is not as bad as others, and it's not like we can't put more money into the economy or into the cost of living and all these things. We can. It's a political choice not to. It's always a political choice not to, because we own our own currency. It's like I'm not an economic expert as well, but one thing I do understand is that we own the pound. The pound is our currency. It's not anybody else's. We can borrow money. Yes, of course, it can increase inflation. I understand that concept, but to say that we don't have there's no money is just nonsense. There is money there. It's all about how you manage it. I mean, Scotland's a prime example. They have they have learned to manage their finances, their economy very, very well, given the fact that they're always restrained all the time by Westminster. I hear all the time about some of the policies and benefits that they have up there in comparison to us. It's insane. It drives me crazy that they have all these things up there and that we don't have, all because they manage their money so much better than we do.
This is the thing. Like I say, economics is really not my thing. I really struggle with it. But what I can do is look to example. And I gave the example earlier. We found billions of pounds for COVID. You know, imagine COVID didn't happen and all that money we spent on a mass council house build. You know, you can do these things. The money's there. We also solved homelessness at that time and got everyone into hotels and say, you know, you can do you don't have to understand economics, to just look at examples from the past, COVID, and obviously if you go back even further, the NHS. We've done this before, so we can do it again.
It's about choice. It's always about choice,
Mm.
and the problem, and the other thing that really annoys me is just they spend too much time listening to each other or listening to think tanks or economics and numbers and charters and whatnot. These politicians, and they don't talk enough to people, and that where I want to actually point out something quite fascinating. So obviously Zoran Mandami is another big popular politician that I think a lot of people. I don't know how familiar you are with him, but when he did something recently which really blew my mind, and it made me realize just what politicians need to do more of. He A couple of days after he got inaugurated as mayor, he spent a whole day with nothing more than in a room with a notepad and a paper, and he literally spent all day, hours and hours and hours. I think it's like 12 hours or something, and he had just different New Yorkers coming in, talking about their problems, just coming in, explaining and talking to them about all their problems, every single different kind of problem, whatever it is, like things like they got a problem with their roofing or something, or whether it's their job, or like racism or discrimination or something. Like I think there was one person who was a trans I can't remember what it was, but basically the person couldn't get a job because of who they were, basically, sort of thing. But all these different stories, they were sharing all these different stories with Zoran Mandami, so many of them, and it reminded me of something back in the medieval times. What did kings used to do? They used to have peasants come to
I was
them,
going to say it reminds me of like Game of Thrones. I'll say.
and they would tell them their problems and whatnot, sort of thing, and they would ask the king or whatnot to help them in that situation. You would have thought that, isn't that? And and it makes me think of, like, why are not politicians like just literally doing something like that, like going to, like, organizing more town halls and setting up more to talk to people? Because in that scenario I was looking at, he's there with them one on one. Okay, it's not like a town hall thing like they do in America, but he's there one on one, and it got me thinking. Like, could you imagine Zach Polanski, like, spending a whole day, like, I don't know where it would be, but let's just say Brighton, London, wherever, right? And he sat there for 24 hours, and he invited all these different people in, coming in, talking about each and all their different problems, and you actually got to see and hear some of those stories, and he would just show, like, just how different he would be to other politicians. And it makes me think about,
You just understand the population and all
Mm.
different slices of population as well. I think this is what politicians struggle with quite a bit.
but it
And
shows a connection as well, because Zoran Mandami is showing that human connection. Yeah, you may not agree with all his policies, you may not agree with who he is and whatnot, but here he is listening to all them. He's not listening to like some consultants or some think tank group. No, he's actually taking information in. Is he going to take every single one of them on board and make them happen? Maybe he might not take all of those things and make all these things problems go. But he can take some of those ideas and say, okay, how can I turn some of these ideas into policies and whatnot to make people's lives better? And that's something that I think resonated with me so hard. I was just like, God, I wish we had a politician like that. And I was like, imagine Sadiq Khan in London did something like that. That would be absolutely insane.
Well,
Like,
there is a distinct problem with politicians, especially the ones at the top of the game. Same as the Tories. We always used to complain about the Eton Tories and stuff, but it's in the Labour Party as well. But there's a disconnect with average people and politicians, and that would go a great way to actually understanding the problems of real people. I always have this issue with if I listen to Rest is Politics with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. They have no connection with the average working person. And, when Trump was elected, they were absolutely dumbfounded, just couldn't understand, why do people like Trump? They just don't understand what it's about. They don't understand that people are sick of the traditional Eton politicians. And, they just don't have any understanding of why people vote reform. They just complete disconnect with average people, and this is dangerous. And you need to understand the population as a whole. You need to understand why they vote what they do.
I really think I remember when they had that big protest in London, I was I was traveling through London to visit family, and I remember me and my partner being getting off at Blackfriars Station waiting for our next train, and I remember seeing so many people getting off and seeing so many people on the bridge going over for it. And I was looking at all these people. Like I didn't ask them anything because I just didn't want to get political with my partner there. And I just kind of just like listening to what people were saying and whatnot. I didn't hear anyone really talking too much political things. They were just talking about just getting there and all this kind of stuff. But I was looking at them all and I just couldn't see a single brown person or a single black person amongst the whole crowd as I was looking at it. And it kind of, and I didn't, and it wasn't like, and I really want to make this clear. I really generally don't believe that every single person who attended that rally is racist or bigoted or feels like, um, or is a vile, dangerous scumbag or anything like that. I really don't think that. Some of them are, but I wouldn't say every single person is because I don't believe in this perception that there's so many people like that. I just feel that so many people have feel so disconnected with their government and so distrustful of politics when they have nowhere else to go to. They're going to go to people who offer simple solutions to complex problems, and that's exactly what it was. Like he's like you can like Tommy Robinson, yeah, you know, if people did research on him, they would understand what he is. But some people don't care about politics. Some people aren't interested in the left and the right, the rights and the wrongs. People just want to be able to put food on their table. People want to be able to pay their bills, live in their home, earn a decent living, have a decent life. People out there don't give a monkeys about politics or don't give a shit. They just want to be able to live their lives. There's a lot of people out there who just have that. And so as I like originally when I was looking at this all, I felt I was looking at this crowd, and I just felt deflated. I felt like the country was taken away from me. I felt really distraught by how many people. But the more time went on, the more I thought it's not that. It's because people don't have somebody who's going to offer them hope, honesty about where we are right now, the situation that we are in, and offer be open and honest about what's going to about what's happening right now, and give honest opinions about how they're going to fix these issues, and not just talk to people like it's like robotic or scripted, like you hear so many times with politicians on TV. Like when you hear it from the Conservatives, the Lib Dems, and Labour, whenever you hear them on talk shows and whatnot, a lot of them sound so robotic, so scripted, and I hate it so much. And even Reform, right? That even they come out with the most craziest of things, but it's not as scripted, you know, as they are. It feels a bit more realism to some people, and that's the same with certain Green politicians as at Polanski. And people are just fed up of hearing Labour saying, "Oh well, left right said we can't do this because of blah, 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 blah," talking to people like they're thick, and it's just like stop treating the public like we're a bunch of sheep, like we're a bunch of thickos that don't, you know, just to be straight with the public with a bit more. It's really.
What that's the. I mean, those marches is just pure and simple. People are sick of not being listened to, and they've latched on to immigration.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanted to talk about the rise of reform and why people are going towards reform. You know, it's pretty simple. The crux of it is very, very simple. That there's a large portion of the population that want immigration to come down and have wanted immigration to come down for a very, very long time. And they've voted in successive Tory governments that have promised to bring up immigration down, and they've done the complete opposite. I think population has risen by about 4 million in the last 10 years. And, you know, that's why the distrust with the Tories. I don't think these people will ever go to the Tories, and they're going in their herds towards Nigel Farage. Now, me and you would probably say the problems with the country are more 15 years of austerity, 40 odd years of Thatcher, Reagan economics. Was it? I mean, people like to call it neoliberalism, don't they? But I prefer Thatcher economics, because we know where we are with that. That's a lot of people understand that a lot easier.
Hmm.
And I just see immigration as a symptom of all that. I mean, the rise in immigration. I know that I have probably some different views on immigration to yourself and a lot of your viewers. I think we do have problems with immigration. I think we should listen to people about immigration, because I feel some of the entry level jobs at the moment are just horrific. I think that the access to cheap labor is fueling capitalist Thatcher economics. It's the cheap labor that we're constantly bringing into this country is making entry level jobs horrific. Amazon warehouses, car washes, takeaway deliveries, Amazon deliveries. These jobs are horrific. They're terrible jobs. I don't know whether you've ever dived into any of these areas, but I worked as an Amazon driver for a week, and I can't believe I lasted a week. It was 15-hour days. I had to drive 2 hours to Littlehampton to the depot. They just ram the van with as much parcels as possible, send you on your way. If you don't deliver them all, you have to be back at the depot, which is another 2-hour round trip, so you're not getting any breaks. I think there's a conversation to be had about immigration and the standard of these jobs. Entry level jobs are horrific at the moment. They really are, and we're seeing a mass rise in youth unemployment. There's about 700,000 16 to 24-year-olds
I checked, it
unemployed.
was on 5% was the last unemployment rate. I think I saw, but I'm not sure about youth unemployment. But
that's the thing. The question of immigration, it dives into so many areas of this country. It drives so many different levels. Why have we got high youth unemployment? Well, probably because the education system is terrible. It rewards people that are good at English and maths and retaining information. And even if you do get good at that, then you're paying an absolute fortune in university fees. So how are you going to get these good jobs? And the state of these entry level jobs that British people are turning away from them. I think that this is the overriding problem that I have with the question of immigration. Is I find a lot of people on the left don't want to talk about it. They shy it away. Anyone that brings it up, they call them racist, they call them a bigot, and it's not helping. And this is what drives people towards Tommy Robinson. This is what drives people to descend to London and march, because the only people that are listening to people's concerns about immigration are the likes of Tommy Robinson.
Okay, so obviously I can't speak for other people who obviously speak on immigration, but here's like my sort of 2 cents on it. So I think we need immigration. Do I think and the thing is, like, so there's so many things to unravel with it. Do people have concerns about it? Absolutely. Should those concerns be listened to? Absolutely. Is immigration the main cause of all our problems? No, but I do say it's a factor.
It's a symptom. Factor. It's a symptom of Brexit, the rot.
It's just like Brexit is a factor as well. Just like successive governments who haven't addressed things like jobs, crime, all these kind of different factors. Everything is all interconnected. Immigration is one of them, of course. But immigration is also what drives our economy. Immigration is obviously, as you know, is what do the jobs that we don't want to do.
But why? This is my issue. Why are these jobs so horrific in that we're exploiting people? These type of jobs, why do they have to be so horrifically bad? This is my big issue. And not even like the entry level jobs, even just nursing. Like nursing is something that I know a lot about. My wife is a nurse. The working standards to being a nurse now is so horrific. The hours are so long. They're so understaffed, and it's making it so British people don't want to do that job. So it's only people from abroad that are willing to come and do it. And then the amount of Filipino nurses that spend a year here find out how horrendous it is, and then end up moving to Australia, America, and shit. I think we need to sort out working conditions to actually solve immigration. The only reason we have such high immigration is because
That's
British
the
people can't do
workers'
these
rights
jobs.
bill will go some way towards that. It's
Well,
not
I hope
enough.
so,
It's
Rico.
it's
I
not an
really do. But
yeah.
what I see
I would
is, I
say the workers'
see.
right bill is a way to do that. I would look. I will just say that, like, you mentioned obviously the NHS there. Obviously, that's how can I put this? I mean, we have a health secretary that I don't trust in any way, shape, or form. I think he's the worst. I think he's the most vile out of all the Labour people in the government. For me, West Streeting. I feel that we rely a lot on people coming not just into the NHS but in so many different parts of the fabric of society, because we don't have enough of our own willing to do the jobs that they want to do. Yes, you're absolutely right. The job conditions are terrible and they need to be improved. You're absolutely right. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I think you're absolutely right. All
And the
conditions, but
access to become a nurse as well. You know,
yeah, yeah,
you have to get
it's
yourself
absolutely
into
brutal.
loads
It's
of
absolutely
debt.
brutal.
It's
But I think I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but one of the things I've said about, like, people like generally want to see a reduction in immigration, right? And they want more the term of British jobs for British workers, right? That's a term I'm sure that you and many people have heard in the chat. Like, we always want more of our own doing jobs rather than relying on immigrants, right? But the thing is with that is that it comes at a cost and it comes at time. And that's the question is, I always say to people, right? If you want less immigration and you want more British jobs for British workers, you want more British people taking those jobs, are you prepared to pay more? And are you willing to be patient? And you also need every single political party on board. And you need money behind it as well. And sometimes that money is going to have to come from, guess what? Us. We'll have to put our own money into that. So, for example, right? Yeah, we want. Let's just use the healthcare sector as an example, right? So we want more British doctors, we want more British nurses. Obviously, we need to work on and improve on their terms and conditions and better pay, which is one of the biggest problems that they're having right now. Yeah, for example, right? So right now we have a situation where we're relying on too many people coming in, doing those jobs, because we don't have enough of our own, right? So we need, obviously, what do we need to do? We need to train them up, right? Well, training that costs money and it costs time, right? So we're talking about, and it's not something that can be done in 5, 10, 15 years. We're talking about 20, 30 years, right? We're talking about a big long-term project, yeah? And you can take that idea just from the idea of doctors and nurses and apply that to any kind of sector in our economy where we want to have more British workers, right? But it's all down to how we encourage people from an educational point of view, from the schools and the colleges and universities. How do we get them in from where they go into those jobs, where they know they're going to get good pay, where they know they're going to get good terms and conditions, they'll get the terms and conditions and all that kind of stuff. And it's just something then you don't just need one government on board, you need to have successive governments on board, regardless of what political party comes in. And because of our current political system, that's not possible, because you're just not going to have every single political party on board for such an idea.
Well, that's what I'd love to say. That's the message that I'd love to see. Immigration will come down naturally if we increase working conditions, if we educate our own citizens better to be able to do these jobs, get rid of university tuition for nurses and all the areas that we need. That should be the area that.
But the thing is, it requires money and patience, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
And I know you would understand it, but would people on the right or people on the far right understand that? Because their example is, oh, we need to get rid of them all now, and it's like, well, no, that would mean our healthcare would collapse. That would mean we wouldn't have enough teachers, or we already don't have enough teachers, but we wouldn't have enough of so many sectors, because we rely too much on immigrants. If we want to rely more on British workers, English, Welsh, Scottish, and Northern Irish people to do them, we have to be willing to put the money and investment in for the training to do so. All the way from schools to colleges, universities, like I said, we've got to give that time. And we're talking not just 5, 10, 15 years. We're talking about 30, 40, 50 years. Like, it's a long-term thing. And then if everyone got on board with such an idea of such a policy like this, as radical it is, because it is a massive radical policy, what would happen in the long term? You would reduce
Is it
immigration.
radical though? I don't even think. Isn't it just what we used to do? Like we used to have free tuition fees. You know, the Amazon delivery job, your average delivery van driver used to be done by the Royal Mail with a job that had a pension, that had a decent salary, that had a union. Isn't this just what we used to do? And I think people will get on board with the message. I mean, factory economics just ruined this basically.
Yeah, all the privatization
governments, but it's what
a lot of it
to do, really. And I think, you know, it's about getting the clear message across, which is what we were talking about before, which is what Labour are suffering with. If people can understand a clear message that we will improve education and working standards, which will naturally, you know, because this is the problem. The average person just doesn't know the ins and outs of politics. They look around and they just see working conditions terrible. Like I say, that Royal Mail job is now a 15-hour job with no pension, and it's being done by immigrants. So people just go, oh, well, it's, you know, immigrants. You know, people are just living their day-to-day life. They're getting on with their lives. They're going to work. They're feeding their family. They're not into day-to-day politics. I think if Labour were going to introduce something like this, it just needs a very clear, simple message where we can say we're increasing working standards, we're increasing education standards to alleviate this problem.
But just going back to that, like the idea that, you know, the reducing of immigration. The other thing, and I think one or two people may pointed it out is in chat as well, it's the birth rate. You know, if we want, because we have a declining birth rate here in the UK at the moment, which needs to be addressed as well. And obviously that ties into the cost of living crisis, as everyone knows, because, you know, people are feeling discouraged from having children, having babies, because it costs too much to have a child now. I mean, yes, the 2-child benefit cap will may alleviate that to a certain extent, and obviously will lift children out of poverty, which I'm happy about. But again, it's another thing that's kind of tied into this whole immigration thing. Like, I can't see us reducing immigration when we rely so much on it. But the other thing is as well is that even if we improve wages and improve workers' conditions and whatnot, right? We still, as we know, we still got to encourage the people to get into those kind of areas here in the UK. We've got to encourage those people to, as well as obviously having the training and whatnot, we got to encourage them into them as well, because like it's very. I'm trying to find the right words to put into it. I know you know where I'm coming from with for the whole immigration point, but the problem is I just don't see, like, even if it came from Labour, right? Let's just say, yeah, Labour introduced this kind of plan, right? Would Reform follow through with this? I don't think for a second they would follow through with this. And the other thing is that a lot of the private companies, a lot of capitalists and whatnot, they want foreign workers. Like, you hear this in the US, they prefer, like, some of their businesses and whatnot, because they're cheap labor. It's cheaper. It's easier.
This is what I don't understand about Nigel Farage, and I don't understand, if he got into power, how he would actually reduce immigration, because he is an ultra free market capitalist. He wants a constant flow of cheap labor. Surely he wants these. I mean, the only thing that he would do if he got into power, if he did reduce immigration, is basically just shift all those hideous jobs to British people. I mean, if he did manage to, but I can't see. I think Nigel Farage is actually kind of shitting himself a little bit now. Now he's actually maybe getting close to power, where he's actually got to think, shit, I actually have to reduce immigration. But his worldview, his economic free market capitalism worldview, just doesn't tie with turning off the tap for cheap labor.
Well, he wouldn't turn off the taps. What he would do is hide that from people. Like Donald Trump was obviously, like, what's going on in America right now, as we know, like the rounding up of so many immigrants, right? But there's certain sectors where they're not rounding them up, because basically businesses and certain sectors are literally going up to Trump and saying, like, I think it was the farming sector was one of the examples of basically where they said, like, if you steal the work, if you round up the workers from the farms and whatnot, like you're gonna have literally no food on the shelf. Like lots of supermarkets and whatnot. They had I think they had like one of those meetings where lots of different supermarkets and all that kind of stuff basically went around, basically sat with Trump and basically said to him, if you do this to these workers, we're gonna have nothing on the shelves. We're gonna have no food on the shelves, and it's gonna be absolute pandemonium. Like, and that's when Donald Trump said, "Okay, I won't say any, I won't do any, we won't target those people."
Yeah,
in that sense, yeah. And
you were trying for a Trump accent. You were trying for a Trump impression there, weren't you?
That's the kind of thing that would happen with Nigel Farage if he tried to do something like that here, because he'll get turned around and say, "Well, all right, do you want the absolute collapse of society in England? Do you want that on your shoulders?" Don't think he's going to do that. You know, and he's a snake oilsman. He'll change his tune whenever it suits him. Like, right, like he'll change his tune as soon as he gets into power. Not for the benefit of us, but for the benefit of Russia, for the benefit of America, for the benefit of whoever pays him the most money. Like I heard recently, Abu Dhabi, people in Abu Dhabi the UAE have been apparently having meetings with Nigel Farage. I saw recently. I was like, oh god, yeah, more foreign investment, because that's more foreign investment in political politics. Like, what can possibly go wrong there?
Yeah, I don't want it to happen, but I've often felt, I don't know whether you felt the same, that maybe this country actually needs to see Nigel Farage in power to finally get rid of the bastard. I don't want it to happen. I'm not saying I want this to happen, but maybe that is the only thing that will actually get this country to realise and finally get rid of this guy. But then you could say the same about Brexit. When people realised the damage that Brexit done, surely they wouldn't want to vote Farage in as Prime Minister, but they're going to vote Farage in as Prime Minister. But maybe the people need to see that when he's actually in power, he can't reduce immigration. How is he going to stop the Channel crossings unless he sorts out some sort of closer ties with Europe? How you know, his whatever ridiculous things that he's saying he's going to do, put boats in the Channel, and I don't understand how he's going to solve that problem.
So when it doesn't affect you personally, when your life is totally fine, it doesn't matter to them. But when it affects you as an individual, like regardless of your political opinions, that's when it becomes a problem. And there's lots and lots of examples of MAGA supporters in America where their lives have been turned upside down because of decisions made by the Trump administration, whether it came to the cuts to whether it came to the increase in their health insurance and the Affordable Care Act, or where it came to people who voted for him, and then they found out that they've lost their wife or their family been torn apart because of ICE taking them away. And when it actually hits them and it affects them, that's when they realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't have voted for Trump. There are still some idiots that still think voting for Trump was a good idea, because I've actually heard those Americans actually say that out there. So the worst one, I think, was a guy had lost his wife, had been taken by ICE. And he said, yeah, I'll still vote for Trump, but I'm just like hoping, hope I get my wife back. And I was just like,
Jesus.
We saw
it. Was it yesterday?
But obviously, I would like to think, and I say I might like to think that there is a part of me, like, well, I agree with you, where people need to actually feel what the damage is going to be if you get Farage in. But at the same time, you're hurting so many good people in the process by doing so. And like, we won't have an NHS if Nigel Farage gets into power. Like, we are going to have some kind of health insurance system if Nigel Farage comes into power. Like, I fully accept this prospect. Like, he will tear down the NHS no matter how much people are a fan of it. He will go to a health insurance system there. We will not have the free healthcare anymore under him. That I think even the whole immigration point, I think I'm more scared about losing our health service more than anything under a reform government.
I'm more scared of his economic policy, just because I don't think, like we just said, I don't think he can actually do anything about channel crossings or immigration. Anyway, I'm very scared about deportations that he's talked about on the immigration side. But the economics of Nigel Farage scares me more than anything. I mean, it's just pure dog eat dog world, survival of the fittest style
They
economics,
don't
where
have a
all our
plan.
workers' rights will be stripped, everything, our holiday pay, our 40-hour week, just everything will just be gone.
They
And
don't
he
have
can
a
do that so
plan.
quickly.
They don't have a plan. Like, and so much has been pointed out to people about how they're running the councils, like on a local level, like just how out of touch they are on a local level, like just simple basic things. And they literally said they weren't raising council tax. And they've announced this year they're going to be raising council. The stories are going to be raising council tax as high
Do you
as
think
5%.
that's more of the small shift towards the Tories that you spoke about earlier? Because there's very different slices of reform voters. You've got your upper middle class and more wealthy people that want to vote reform because they absolutely love the tax cuts that Farage is talking about. And you've got your middle class ex-Tory voters that have probably seen some of the mess that's going on with these councils and thought, hang on, can we really trust these guys? Maybe we need to go back to our comfortable Tory vote.
I think I think I absolutely agree that it's not every single reform vote was a former conservative. I think there's a mixture. I think some from Labour went to reform. I think some from Lib Dems went to reform. I think some from the Conservatives. I think there's I think it's a variety. It's the same in the Green Party. Same with in the Green Party. There's actually people who were always been conservatives that turned to Green, as well as not just people from Labour who gave up on Labour and turned to the Greens, for example. I think a lot of conservative voters turn to Lib Dems. They tend to turn to Lib Dems more than anything. Yeah, a lot of conservatives, not just to reform there. As for whether, is that what's happening on the council level? Is that the reason why people are turning back to the Tories? I don't think it's that. I actually think it's because Kemi Badenoch is actually doing a lot better than she has been initially when she started out as shadow minister. I still think she's off the wall.
Well, in a way, we need her to do. I mean, this is the whole question that we've got right now. How do we pull votes away from reform? None of us want a reform government. It would be absolutely horrendous. So, what is the best tactic? You know, this is why I mentioned the whole topic. This is why I mentioned the whole topic of immigration. That has to be resolved. I think there has to be a party, whether it's Labour, that actually talks about this, because whether we like it or not, we live in a democracy and there is a very large amount of the population that wants something done about immigration and have done for a very, very long time. And if you're going to pull votes away from reform, you need to offer something in that area.
I don't think there is nothing that the Labour government can do to pull those voters away from reform in terms of immigration. I don't think there is nothing that they can do. One of the problems that we have in terms of immigration is that we do not have safe and legal routes. Like, they keep going on about stopping the boats. The government could stop the boats tomorrow if they wanted to, by setting up.
Well, that's the thing that they can do.
But they don't want to. They don't want to because it's
that's what I'm saying. They need to give them something, and stopping channel crossings, which I agree with you, they can do tomorrow. Yeah. They can set up an asylum center in France and set up a deal. I can't see how it's that difficult to set up a deal with France where we agree to take a certain amount in.
The British government that, and they've turned around and said no. Both the Conservative government was offered it. They said no. The new Labour government, they were offered it by the French government to help deal with it. They said no.
Because to be honest, I don't think the majority of reform voters are lining up to vote reform because they're fed up with Filipino nurses and stuff like that. It is the channel crossings, which is what Farage has got them riled up about.
Yeah.
And, Labour need to throw these reform voters a bone, but also we just need it solved anyway because people are dying, right? I mean, we need to resolve this anyway. So I can't see how it's that difficult to get a deal with France. Asylum Centre over there. We agree with France that we'll take a certain amount in, and anyone that tries to cross on the channel will get sent directly back to France, like it used to be.
The thing is that they don't I generally feel like that Labour don't want to do that. They don't want to set up a safe and legal route for people to claim asylum in the UK because I think there's a couple of things. So I think, first of all, they're afraid of too many people will claim asylum, which there will be. There's like thousands and thousands. I don't know what the number is right now in Cali,
But
but
there's claiming asylum and then there's being accepted for asylum, which
yeah,
is two
yeah,
very different things, isn't it? Just because you claim asylum doesn't mean you get accepted.
yeah.
It's
I think that, and the other problem, of course, is that yeah, even if they did that, would that mean that obviously we would get less people? Like the other thing you keep hearing about constantly is migrants in hotels or in military bases, or they're somewhere they're getting set up here, and it's like not in my backyard, not here, not here, not here, and it's just like, well, where do you want them to go? Like, if you okay, we don't want them. You don't want them in hotels. Fine. Okay, we'll put them in a military base. No, not in a military base. That's where veterans used to be. Okay, well, where do you want to put them there? We just want to send them back. Well, they need to be processed. So where are they going to get processed? Like, and then reform solution is we'll put them in a camp. Oh, what? Like a prison style camp? Like, is that's not like I you keep
well, it comes
moving
back
the
to our
problem.
good friend investment, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You need to invest in the problem.
yeah.
You know, shoving them in a hotel was just a desperate last minute thing from the Tories to try and save a bit of money,
Mm.
which was a terrible policy that no one agrees with, whether you're left or right, whatever side of the political spectrum. There needs to be serious investment. This is a problem. Like migration is a massive problem throughout the world. The people are on the move. They're moving big time across the planet. This is something that we need to invest with. You can't just throw it a few crumbs. You need to seriously invest in this problem. Like
See,
if we're
global
going to,
migration is a different. We're talking about obviously UK migration, but if you want to talk global migration, I don't know how many times I've mentioned this many times with regards to global migration. Is global migration is only going to get worse. It is only going to get worse, and you know it, I know it, and if people in the chat doesn't know it, well, they wake up, because that is definitely going to get worse. And there's lots of reasons why it's going to get worse. So one of the first and obvious things is obviously climate change. I do think that is playing a factor into it, because in some parts of the world it's going to get too warm in some of those countries where they're not going to be able to produce as much food and whatnot for them. That's one factor. Another factor, of course, is conflict. We're getting more and more conflicts now, and not enough of them are being dealt with in certain parts of the world. I mean, Sudan is a prime example of one of the worst crises on the planet. People talk non-stop about the Middle East. Sudan is far worse, is in a far worse. We're talking about to 25 million people have been as much as starving there. Like millions and millions and millions of people have fled that country and have gone to the North African nations to come across onto the Mediterranean. And still, since 2023, nobody has bothered to try and resolve this and really do more than enough to do this. And that's just one of many conflicts obviously taking place around the world. But the other thing is foreign aid, which ties into some of this as well, because the reduction in foreign aid means that a lot of countries and places where they rely on it to keep themselves going in certain nations and whatnot, well, those people are going to struggle to survive where they are. What's going to happen when they can't survive, when they can't feed themselves and whatnot in wherever they are? Well, they're going to pack up and leave. They're gonna move. Where they're going to move? Well, they're going to look for the promised lands of America or Europe or God forbid China or Australia, because they actually have something there. I don't know about China, but I can't speak for that part of the world. But they're going to look for places where they can actually make something themselves, where they can be prosperous. So global migration is going to increase. If you want to reduce global migration, and I want to see a reduction in global migration, the international order, which currently is falling apart as we speak, especially after what happened on Saturday, if the international order isn't willing to do more to help these poorer nations, to help countries that are currently in conflicts, help them deal with the climate crisis, help them deal with the terrible weather storms that they have, like hurricanes and tsunamis and all that kind of stuff, earthquakes and whatnot. If we as a global international community aren't willing to do more to help them, then they're just going to keep packing up and leaving the nations that they're in to come to us.
Yeah, you make a very good point, and international aid is so. It's a complicated issue that so many people don't fully really understand, and it's one that always gets knocked around. And why are we spending so much money over here on other countries and stuff? Well,
We
people,
spend it there so they don't have to come here.
yeah,
It's a great
exactly.
argument to put to them. Like, you don't want them coming here? Well, let's spend the money over there so that they stay over there. Yeah, but I want them to stay there, but I don't want to spend any of my money there. Well, then they're gonna come at your they're gonna come and knock on your door. like they
No one wants to leave their own home.
yeah.
It takes drastic measures for people to want to leave their own home. And war, famine, all these sort of things, and especially the Middle East, we've contributed to it so much in that area, the instability in that area. It's about proactive policy, isn't it? Which we never do, and we've had so long of reactive policy. We never do anything proactive, and that's what we need to drastically change, really.
Well, it's funny, like literally, we just mentioned about global migration. Literally last year, all the talk's been about Venezuela. What's just happened on Saturday? Like literally last year, when they had the presidential election, Nicolas Maduro, rigged the election in his favor. Everyone knows that he rigged the election to stay in power. And what did everyone do at the time? Didn't do anything. Like, people protested. People in the country protested, but it was clamped down. And then after several weeks, when Venezuelan people realized that they can't change their leader, that they're going to be stuck with Nicolas Maduro, what did they do? They migrated. They migrated in hundreds of thousands of them migrated from the country. I think someone said as much as like, I can't remember, like it's such a huge amount of Venezuelans from last year, from that election to now, had fled the country just because of Nicolas Maduro, because he rigged the election in their favor. And then there's this argument that what happened on Saturday, when we had what happened on Saturday, people are trying to justify what happened on Saturday with the capture, which I call kidnapping, of Nicolas Maduro, because it is a kidnapping, because they literally went into a foreign country and took their leader, even if I don't agree with him. Like, people will argue that he was right in doing so. I personally don't agree with it, but there's a part of me that kind of is like, well, maybe it make Venezuela better. Well, no, technically it won't, because all they did was take the leader. They didn't take the entire government down, for example. Take the entire government. The system is still there. Sometimes I wonder your sources, Friga. What do you mean? What do you mean by that, Chris Fisher? The Venezuelan thing definitely happened, by the way, last year, with regards to the amount of people migrating last year. That definitely did happen. That definitely did happen. There. But yeah, Saturday's like there's a part of me is like, I'm glad he's gone, but there's another part of me is like, well, it's wrong because it's against international law. Like,
it's the two wrongs don't make a right sort of situation.
How do you feel about what happened on Saturday? Because I haven't heard from you about what happened, because it was such a major story. What was your thought about
it? Well, straight away I was shocked, but I mean, my first instinct was not generally thinking about Venezuela. I'll tell you what my very first instinct was. As soon as I heard about this, I was like, well, surely China's going to be more happy about invading Taiwan now, right? And just I was just thinking more about where it progresses, and Greenland and stuff like that. Like, how can America say it's fine to go and invade a country that hasn't attacked them? Isn't that just more emphasis for more global war? This is what scared me more than anything. I'm not an expert in the ins and outs of Venezuelan politics, but that's what scares me more. It's just a progression for further war around the globe, and that's why we need to be prepared, right? with immigration, everything we were talking about, and we need to know that the world is on the move, and we need to actually have a solid plan in place if people are going to come over. And I'm happy for people to come over, but are we going to dump them into slave labor jobs for Amazon in our country, or do we want to do something a little bit better and try and have a plan? But yeah, that's what scared me overall. I mean, what do you think about the domino effect of what happened? Because that was the first instinct that I thought this is going to have a domino effect now. Greenland, Taiwan.
So my first reaction was like, I was literally traveling on the day, and I felt like compelled to do a little short video just to kind of express my thoughts. There I'm at Blackfriars Station, basically saying, "Is this the end of international law?" That was my first thought. My first thought was international law, because we already know that Israel have been breaching international law so many times because of what they're doing, not just in Gaza and in the West Bank, because obviously no one's holding them account yet for in those areas areas there. Not to mention all the other countries that they bombed. Again, no accountability there. So I think they've bombed like chat. How many countries did Israel attacked last year? I think it was like more than 5. If someone wants to number them down, I'm sure someone will. But there was no accountability whatsoever. Like, international law is just like it's I'd say it's a fucking joke. It's a fucking joke because there's no accountability, and obviously everyone's all condemning Russia. How dare they attack Ukraine and whatnot? And that's like, yeah, that's great, but you're not holding other countries at the same standard. Like, everyone's all like, it's all well and good, like everyone all chastising Russia for what they're doing for Ukraine. Absolutely rightly so. Where were you guys in 2014 when they annexed Crimea? Nowhere to be seen. Like, nowhere to be seen when that happened. And now you have a situation where, oh, we could just go in and just change the leader over, in Venezuela. And it's just like, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed, like America, you're supposed to be the good guys. You're supposed to be the heroes of the free world and sort of thing. No, they ain't that anymore. They ain't that anymore. No, they're long gone from that, like, now. And it's just like, and all they keep saying is, we need Greenland. We need Greenland. And I'm like, dude, like, and they keep saying, we need it for national security. And I'm like, dude, you reduced the number of soldiers on the military bases in Greenland, and you're saying you need to take Greenland for national security reasons. Then why are you reducing your soldier numbers on the fucking base on the island in the first place?
But also the security measures is supposed to be against Russia, right? That's why they want Greenland.
Yeah.
Well, why not just help Ukraine more? If you're that concerned about Russia, rather than annexing Greenland, how about give more support to Ukraine? That seems like a better option.
The dumb thing is,
they don't care about Russia.
The dumb thing is like the Danes, yeah, who obviously the kingdom are under the Greens, right? Under Greenland, like the Danes literally have I don't know how 100% is true is this, but I have heard this. Okay, I don't know how accurate it is, but the Danes have always said, because they're all part of NATO, they've said to America, like, you want to build more bases and whatnot, you can do that because we're all part of NATO, we're all part of. They've literally said that to America, right? I've also, I don't know how true this one is, but I've heard them say, if you wanted to mine for resources, like, we're willing to talk about that, have proper discussions about that. And this is the weird thing, right? In the last couple of weeks before Nicholas Morado got kidnapped or captured, as the mainstream media like to say, he was literally like, there's public speeches online. I think there was like one time where he was literally driving around the Capitol. And he was literally saying, like, America, he's willing to talk to America anytime. He wants to talk about oil? Yeah, we'll talk about oil. You want to talk about, like, resources? Yeah, we'll talk about resources. Like, he's always said his book is already open to him. He said this, right? And they still nabbed the guy. And then you're hearing the exact same rhetoric from the new interim president of Venezuela, saying the exact same thing that Nicolas Maduro said in the weeks before he got nabbed. And it's just like, they don't care. Trump does not give a shit.
It's the emperor's clothes situation.
Colonialism. They just want the land.
They'll put up a front like Greenland is for security. We all know it's not. Venezuela was about drugs. Well, we know that's not true because most of the drugs from Venezuela go to Europe. They're not. It's fentanyl is the big problem that Trump's supposed to be on about, and that doesn't come from Venezuela. It's the emperor's clothes, right? We see through this shit. They just he just will do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's what's so scary. That's what's so scary about this guy.
I don't know what's going to happen if they do that. Like, I think I can't remember who, but someone said that the UK should put military on Greenland, and I'm like, what's that going to do? Like, do you? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's going to help anything. But and the one person who, like, Russia aren't happy with what happened with Venezuela, my understanding. But at the same time, they're also delighted because it means it throws international order into chaos, which is exactly what they want. And you want to see the breakup of NATO as well. And as you said about Taiwan, like, Yeah, we're all fucked if Taiwan gets taken by China, because all our electronic devices, and whatnot, is all apparently the chips and everything. Someone can correct me in the chat here.
Silicon, isn't it? They're the
Yeah,
producers of silicon or something, aren't they?
yeah. Once if we lose that, basically the entire world, like, we're fucked, brother. Like, we are seriously screwed. Like, all our technology, all our phones, all our computers, all our TVs. Yeah, we're gonna lose all that. We're gonna lose all that. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
Mm.
uh, mm. uh, I don't know. What else? Is there anything else we want to touch on before we wrap up?
No. So we covered everything that we wanted to talk about. It was good fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy I enjoy a little bit of disagreement on topics, but it's nice. That's what I think. I think that's where the best conversations come from, when you have a little bit of disagreement. I think, and when you can just be open and honest about how you feel, which I think people struggle with quite a bit online, and it's good. It's good. It's where you get good
One last
communication.
thing. I think one last thing for both of us. What is your predictions for the local elections this year? What do you think is going to happen here? Do you
It's really tough, actually. I mean, obviously Labour will be decimated. Obviously, I mean that's just obvious. But I don't know with the reform councils and stuff whether they're really going to do that well. I think there'll just be. I just think there'll be a massive reduction in voters. I think that the voter turnout will be
That's
extremely low.
interesting. Thank you for that, Glasgow Kiss. Senate voted 52 to 47 to curb Trump's military action in Venezuela. That means Republicans voted against Trump's actions. Interesting.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing that. That's fascinating. I'll have to look up on that a bit more. I think I agree with you. Labour are going to get annihilated in the local elections. I think Keir Starmer will be gone by the end of this year, because he's just too unpopular. He's not turning those numbers around. And if Labour are serious about maintaining power at the next general election, they're going to have to get the axe out. They're going to have to.
Please don't let it be Wes Streeting though that takes over, man. That would just
I
be
think it's
horrific.
going to be him, as much as I don't want it to.
How is that not worse for everyone involved? Like, I don't understand how that's
because
better.
he's got the right people paying him lots of money, and he's got obviously all the right people that are on board, and people who are paying him the right amount of money. Like, and he's keeping his powder dry for it. I don't like it at all. I'm terrified of it. I would love to him to lose his seat whenever he gets up for election, because he was so close to losing it last time. I think that was a big devastation, was that he hold on to his seat at the general election. I think in terms of Wales, I generally mean this. I hope Plaid Cymru does well in Wales. There. I really, really hope they have a good outcome. And in Scotland, I hope the SNP have a good outcome as well, because the message needs to be made loud and clear for Labour everywhere. Like, you guys, like, you say you want to, like, you're making some, you're doing some things, but you're not doing nowhere near enough, fast enough. And I know, and we all agree, like, things take time to build, but there's a lot of things that Labour have done where they should not have been doing, and it's just like a blatant, like ignoring its own base, pretty much. Never mind trying to appeal to left or right people. I just think they're just out upsetting too many people there. So
I think the stupid thing with the council elections though is that it's always a reflection of national government. But I mean, we should actually take council elections more seriously. And who do you actually want to run in your council? Like, my Labour councillor is bloody amazing. Like, she is fantastic. She goes to my park run every Saturday. I chat to her the things that she's been doing. She's fantastic. So really, I should just, well, we haven't got we have council elections 4 yearly in Brighton, so we haven't got council election. But that's what we should be voting on, really. But it's always council elections.
That's the kind of politician you want, someone progressing, because that's somebody on a local level who's dealing with local issues. Now imagine replicating that same person doing that kind of stuff on a national level. That's the kind of people you want. But
Yeah, it's just so like council elections is always just a reflection of the national government. It's silly, really. We
yeah,
should actually just look into our local councillors and look at actually if they're doing a good job and look at the other options. But no, we just protest vote every single time the council
yeah.
election, isn't it?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. His dad was a toolmaker. Yeah, his dad was a toolmaker. Yes, Kisama's dad was a toolmaker. There. Guys, I would say thank you guys all for coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. I know, I know some interesting comments in the chat. We'll say that. Van Man, I want to thank you so much for giving your time here. I really appreciate it. It was good. It was good to chat to you again. And yeah, we definitely need to do this again sometime.
Yes,
Definitely do.
yeah. I promised I'll get you on my channel at some point, and that's what I want to do on my channel. I want to do a lot more live streams and conversations because I just find rather than short form videos of things, I think you just can't beat a decent conversation. Like I say, a good long form conversation where people can really listen to each other's point of views, and you can change your opinions as well. Right, the amount of times I've changed my opinions on topics through conversations with people, it's the best way. So yeah, I'm going to be looking at doing a lot more of these sort of things on my channel.
Yeah, definitely. I think that look, and I think that's a good thing. Like even in the groups of the round tables of people that I have on my, like, I don't always agree with every single thing that everyone says, but it's interesting to speak to different people whenever you can. Guys, if you haven't already, do subscribe to Van Man Talks. His channel is in the description. If anyone wants to subscribe there, obviously you want to subscribe to my channel, just click the subscribe button, of course. I just want to say to everyone, I know people have been, I still get people asking me about it. Yes, I'm still currently demonetized. Yes, that is still an issue. I will say this, obviously, to people. Obviously, if you want to financially support me while I'm in this situation, there's two options down below in the description. There is a link to buy me a coffee or join my Patreon. One of those two options, guys. If you want to support me, great. If you can support me financially, great. It really does help support me, and it means that you're obviously going extra lengths to support the work that I do on my channel. Obviously, if you can't, don't feel bad about it whatsoever. One of the best things you can do in a non-financial amount is doing what you should always do whenever you're supporting not just myself, but Van Man Talks and other great YouTubers in the chat that I've seen, is hitting the like button, sharing across social media, subscribing, leaving comments down below. All that stuff helps boost the algorithm, guys. It really does make a difference to us. So even if you're just doing those stuff, guys, you are helping and supporting me. So thank you to everyone who does do that. I really do appreciate, and I appreciate all you guys coming out with your viewpoints, on these discussions, because I think it was very interesting stuff to talk about. So I don't think I have anything more to add to that, do I? Is there anything more I need to add to that?
Just best luck with this YouTube stuff, mate. Really, I really just hope you get it sorted because it's horrific. It's horrific the way YouTube treat small channels. You may think that they may think that they don't get much revenue from yourself, but all the small channels combined make a lot of revenue for YouTube, and they need to be looking after us. Really, it's shameful. It's shameful the way they're treating you.
Yeah, that's what I want for my birthday, guys, in 10 days' time. Yeah, that's what I want for my birthday. Demonetized. Yeah, that's what I want. No, remonetized.
Monetized.
Remonetized. Oh my god, losing it today. Yeah, I want remonetized. That's definitely what I want. Okay, guys. Just a quick reminder, guys, I'll be live again tomorrow at 11 a.m. for another Good Morning show. If you want to join me for that. Also, just for people in the chat, if anybody is wants to talk about mental health, depression, that kind of stuff, really that kind of thing. It's not often that I do it, but every couple of months I do a mental health live stream. If you guys want to join me tomorrow at 3 o'clock, myself and Witchy Goth, who we've had on the channel before, we're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about that kind of stuff for 2 hours, roughly 2 hours, hour and a half, roughly or so. Do join us for that, because we want you guys to, if you can come, if you want to share some of your stories and things that are on your mind, please feel free to do so on that. And actually 3 o'clock is actually a good time, because at 5 o'clock on Friday, Daily Blase has his Friday Frolics, which is one of the most funniest, entertaining live streams that is on a Friday afternoon / evening there as well. So you can what you can do, guys, is unbottle some of your feelings and your problems there with us at 3 o'clock, and then later on you can have a giggle and a laugh and whatnot with Darren Daily Blase with his Friday Frolics live stream there. So if you guys can, obviously if you can't, it's totally understandable, but is there as an option. Oh, one last thing as well. Next week I have the round table. I've got Daily Blase joining us. Dave McGuinness, I believe, is in the chat as well. And Grand Price, Proud to the People, will be joining me next week for a round table. I haven't set a date yet for next month's one, but once I do, I'll let you guys know. And Avan, man, I know you're interested in joining me for a round table as well. So we'll see if we can get you on maybe next month or March in the future. I think that would be pretty cool if possible as well.
Yeah, great. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thanks again for coming. Thank you guys for all your comments. Enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you're doing, and take care and good night, I suppose. Bye, everyone.